Thank you for holding for just 10 seconds while I get live going. Alright. CinematicCritic. I am not fresh off of anything tonight. I am doing a redo of my review for Zootopia because quite frankly, my Zootopia review did not come out very good because I did not follow the new setup that I had, which I'm going to do now. So basically, let's talk about the actors first, of course. In this case, it is voice acting, and I thought the voice acting was very good. We got Jennifer Goodwin as Judy Hopps, voice, of course, Jason Bateman as Nick Wilde, and Idris Elba as Chief Bogo. Those are the main ones in here. Also, Octavia Spencer as Miss Otterton. We'll get to her later. And that's really the only four people that you really have to know. I mean, the mayor isn't on here because he's not top billed. The voice acting in this I did find to be pretty impressive. The sync with the mouse was definitely very good. And now that we're talking with the actors, before we get into the story, I would just talk about the visuals. As far as 3D movies go, not really made for 3D. I didn't see any 3D that immediately jumped out at me in this film. So you really don't need to go see the 3D version of this. If you can get the 2D version over the 3D version, or if you, let's put it this way, if you have to wait 2 to 3 hours to see the 3D version, or you could see the 2D version right now, just go see the 2D version. Because this movie really is all about its stories and its characters. I originally rated this a 9 out of 11. But I am unfortunately going to knock the rating down to an 8 out of 11 in this re-review because I've thought about it, and the fact is some of this, and as I'll explain in a minute, is stuff we have seen before. So now let's get into the story, non-spoiler section. The first thing, of course, is the backstory that haunts the central character. In this case, that would be the central character is Judy Hopps, played by Jennifer Goodwin again. It's basically, she doesn't want to be a carrot farmer like her parents are. And that kind of does set up something we've seen before. And I didn't make this connection until today, that this movie really is kind of about prejudice somehow. And I'll explain that as the story goes on. Labels and everything, and that could be one of the reasons why I liked it so much, because I love having labels proven wrong. I love that kind of plot. I do. So the catalyst is the incident that gets the character moving. I would say that in this story, it's probably when she is accepted into the police academy, because there's never been a bunny police officer, and she wants to be the first, and she gets to be the first. And then comes the inciting incident. That would probably be where Chief Bogo, who's this big, I wouldn't say, he's not a predator, he is prey, and we'll get more deep into the predator-prey setup of how Zootopia is set up, because Zootopia is supposed to be a utopian zoo, where the title comes from, and Officer Hopps gets there and finds out it's anything but utopia. And that was actually a genius idea. I honestly thought we were going to go to Zootopia and see it was this perfect little world and she was going to have her own personal issue, but no, they actually made it much bigger than that. They actually made it about how Zootopia, the predators and the prey weren't getting along. The predators were taking advantage of the prey, even though they weren't eating them. Like there's this fun museum scene where they're basically telling the audience, you know, predators used to eat prey, and you know, now we've grown up where we all live together. And the fact is, they do live together, but are they in perfect harmony? No. And that really is the brilliance of this. But it's how it was executed in the second act that kind of started having an issue. I would be more than happy to answer how you go live at the end of the video. You have to have a phone. It can only be done on phones. It can't be done on computers if that's what you want to know. But moving on with the review. I ask you, please keep any questions. You can message me with questions on Facebook if you want. I ask you keep questions related to this review because it's also going to go on my CinematicCritic YouTube. Um, so that's pretty much the moment that ends Act 1. Act 2, and this is the last thing I'm going to talk about before I get into spoilers, the midpoint is the point of no return or a moment of deep motivation. Well, by this point in time, we've been introduced to Nick Wilde, who, again, is played by Jason Bateman. Nick Wilde is a pretty interesting character, but I would say that that his character changes rather rapidly for me. He goes from this, ne'er-do-well, good-for-nothing on the street to basically, it is funny the way that Officer Hops forces him into working with her because she now has 48 hours she has to impress Chief Bogo. So she has 48 hours to solve this case of the disappearing predators. Notice I said predators, not prey. That's a key moment here. And figure out where they are going. And things actually got really complex. I couldn't follow the story. The characters were very predictable, but the story, I didn't see where it was going. I mean, I saw the whole point of, predators and prey and stereotypes and everything, but they did it in a very good way. I can't really talk that much more without going into spoilers, but if I would say anything, I would say that the character of Nick Wilde, he really doesn't come into play in the second act. If I could talk about the crisis as the low point, I will say, before hitting the spoiler section, that I can talk a little bit about the crisis or the low point for Officer Hops is when Chief Bogo basically tells her she's off the force because she has failed to solve this case. She has failed to get any leads. And Nick Wilde actually stands up for her. Nick Wilde, the fox, who is a predator, and that will be key, stands up for her and says, technically we still have a few hours, so you can't do it yet. And then we get our most wonderful moment of the two connecting. And that's where I have to stop it. I don't have my spoiler hat with me, but spoiler hat, I'm going to talk about spoilers now. And I'll put my hand on my head again to signify that spoilers are over. Those people who just joined us, I'm going to the spoiler section of this review. You can watch the beginning. And I'm talking about Zootopia. So what's the turning point at the end of the second act? It's pretty much the moment where Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps have to join together. They have to start working together. And we start seeing all these funny moments. Yeah, so that was one of the issues I had. The funny moments really didn't come into play until later in the movie. So you do have to sit through a fair amount of exposition and a fairly long Act 1. It didn't make me not want to watch it in this version, though. So that was actually pretty good. And we learn, spoiler alert one more time, that the mayor, who is a predator, has actually been the one kidnapping the predators and locking them all away. Now you're thinking, well, why would a predator lock away predators? And it turns out that these predators are actually reverting back to their animal instincts. And as such, they would kill prey. So in one way, the mayor, who is a predator, a tiger, he's trying to protect the prey. And in another way, he's doing something illegal by locking away the predators. And basically, he wants to keep this a secret because he doesn't want the prey running all out of control because they think the predators can now attack them. And he doesn't know what's causing it. And that was a brilliant twist. I'll get to that in a minute. The twist as to why they're causing it, one that I honestly didn't see coming and took me by surprise. And it's great when a movie takes me by surprise. But we do have to talk about the one thing that I knew was going to happen in this movie. When Judy Hopps finds out and exposes the mayor, she basically says, I don't know why it's only happening to predators and not prey. And then sort of everything shifts, and we get that moment that immediately after she said that, sure enough, Nick Wilde, the fox, who is a predator, who has been working with her, a bunny, the prey, he's basically like, so this is what you really think? And Now he just basically walks away from her because he's convinced that she thinks he's gonna go go back to his animal nature, just like all these other predators supposedly are. Which does kind of have a sad moment, especially since he does reveal a story, a backstory about how, just like she is trying to be treated well by the predators, he actually, as a kid, tried to be treated well by the prey. That is, by people that he would normally have preyed on had Zootopia not started and had they not started living together, where he was actually teased and the prey basically told him, you can't be with us because you're a predator. And are you starting to see where the connection of the stereotypes and some type of racial thing comes into play here? Uh, I would go so far as to say that I don't want to talk too much about that. I am trying to keep this to basically reviewing the movie, but I honestly didn't make this connection till last night. And I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Prey, predator. I'll just say it. Blacks and whites. That's pretty much where they're going with this. And it's very important, and it's actually come out at a great time. I'm not going to bring any particular people up, but yeah. I think you all knew who we're talking about. To finish off the movie in Act 3, what ends up happening is there is a reason for all of these guys. It turns out there was this hint dropped in the movie about how night howlers had something to do with the fact that they were turning predators back to their animalistic natures of wanting to eat the prey. And big spoiler alert here, it turns out that that night howlers are, and it's thanks to her family that she finds this out, to Officer Hobbs's family, when she goes back because she doesn't want any part of the new Zootopia that's ruled by prey. Key twist coming up here in a second. And her parents reveal to her that night howlers are actually flowers that can make anybody, prey or predator, lose control of themselves. So, hello, that's basically, so now the problem she has is, and she basically goes, she finds Nick Wilde and she says, I know what's turning all the predators. Someone's targeting predators specifically and using this flower on them to make them lose control of themselves. Because apparently it could be done on prey as well, because according to the rabbits, it's actually happened before to one of their rabbit's relatives. But getting back to the main point, they know what is going on now, and they have to figure out now, who is it that is trying to target all the predators? We already know that the mayor was the one kidnapping them, but he was supposedly doing it to protect, and he was, amazingly enough. Want to give a guess who? Someone I have not brought up in the review yet? The mayor's assistant. Sick of being treated the way she is, because she is a prey and he is a predator. And that's the whole key here, is even though they're not eaten by the predators anymore, the prey are still mistreated. And you can see that as the main character, Officer Hobbs, and the way Nick treats her for a while. But the officer's assistant, I have her name here, Miss Otterton. No, Miss Otterton is the otter one who was taken. I can't remember her name. But the assistant, who is basically a sheep of the mayor, is the one behind the whole thing. She's the one who's actually been forcing people, the predators, only to eat these flowers that basically make them lose control. And everyone thinks that since only the predators have eaten these, that it's only happening to predators and that it can't happen to prey, and they don't know what's going on. They think everyone's reverted back, as I've said. And, of course, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde find this out, and now they have to expose it. And there's this really ingenious moment where Nick is actually shot with one of these, not with a gun, with like one of these vials full of this whatever you want to call it, this concoction with the night howler in it, So supposedly he's going to revert back now to his animalistic nature, and foxes eat rabbits. Now, though there's one little bit of a problem I had with the movie, it looked like it actually hit him, but it's revealed that he like caught it at the last second, and he's only acting for the like 2 minutes that he's like that. That for the 2 minutes that he's supposedly reverted back to his animalistic nature, he's actually just acting it out. Uh, Tricky fox, basically. And there's this fun little gag in there where they have a pen with a recorder built into it, and basically the lamb, the assistant of the mayor, spits out her whole spits out her whole plan, and that's when Nick holds up the pen and he's like, "Got ya. We've got it all recorded for evidence." And of course, it ends with a happy ending with everybody going back and to normal because the serum is a vaccination or serum, whatever you want to call it. A cure is made to turn the predators back to themselves, but, not trying to eat the prey anymore. The one problem I have about that is we really don't see much more of that. So we're expected to believe that the predators and prey are friends now, and that they are actually supposed to, get along even better now. Like, now Zootopia is a zoo utopia. It wasn't before, and now it is. And I would give the movie credit to one thing. It makes Nick Wilde the first, in addition to Judy Hopps having been the first little bunny on the force, made up of mostly prey, I might add. Nick Wilde becomes the first fox on the force, and I think the first predator. I could be wrong about that. So as you can see, I think I've described the movie a little better in this review than I did in my other one. So I'm actually really glad that I re-reviewed this. I also can see that there are a lot more, when you think about it, moments in this film that are standard to kids' movies. And the sad thing is, the more and more I think about it, I don't think there were that many jokes that I really loved in this. Like, the sloth at the DMV, that was funny. Nick Wilde, overall, my favorite character in this, Nick Wilde. I don't know, maybe I have a thing for foxes. Maybe that would explain why I like Kurama and Naruto so much. But, I mean, what happened? Okay, well, for the Cinematic Critic, that's it. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. I seem to have lost my live broadcast, but that really was what I was going to say and wrap it up. I mean, I've pretty much given you the resolution. Critical opinion, I'll give it to just to my YouTube viewers. Critical opinion, like I've said, like I was saying, it's pretty much what you would get. It's what you would expect to get from this type of movie, but it is a little elevated. So, they do really shove, like Nostalgia Critic said, there is, and he's honestly the person that got me to think about this and want to do this re-review, because when he said it, I realized the racial issue really is, these connections to like racial and inequality issues really is shoved into your face. So there's that. And that's all I'm going to say about Zootopia. I'm going to end this, and I'm going to try to get my Facebook back. Well, I could talk about 30 seconds. All right, I have my Facebook people back. I just want to say, just like I was telling my Cinematic Critic YouTube users, I just want to add, to finish it up, that basically the racial issue is shoved in your face a little bit. That's kind of the one drawback of this movie. Uh, I lost it again. All right, I'm not going to make you YouTube users sit through this. That's it. I'll figure out what's going on with Facebook later.